Hey guys, tonight we begin in a place you probably never imagined would show up in your bedtime story. When you think of ancient China, maybe your mind floats to jade palaces, wise scholars scribbling scrolls under moonlight and perfect porcelain teacups held with elegant fingertips. It's peaceful, refined, probably smells like jasmine. But tonight we're skipping the royal courts and headed somewhere. A little grimier, a little steamier, and a lot weirder. We're walking into a medieval tavern. Not just any tavern, this one sits on the edge of a crooked road near Hangzhou in the year 1142. There's no menu, no customer service hotline, and definitely no refund policy. Just stewed cabbage, cloudy rice wine, and a house cat with more authority than the local magistrate. The real question is, would you survive one night in a place where your bed is made of straw? The soup might contain chicken feet or not? And the bathroom situation? Well, let's just say it's a hole in the conversation. Because guess what? No memory foam, no blackout curtains, just a shared blanket and a farting stranger beside you. So before you get too comfy, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually like what I do here. And hey, drop your time and location in the comments. I love seeing who else is dozing off to dumplings across the globe. Dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You walk with stiff legs through a winding dirt road in the outskirts of Hangzhou. It's early winter, the year 1142, and the sun has already checked out for the evening. You, however, have not. Your feet are wrapped in straw sandals that were stylish approximately never, and they're now soaked through from an enthusiastic puddle that seemed determined to introduce itself. Every step squishes. Every breath hangs in the air like a slow exhale from the mountains behind you. You glance up. Above, strings of lanterns hang like lazy stars. Some are red, some have long since turned pink from too many rainy seasons. One flickers defiantly, though it's only held up by a piece of rope that looks more like dental floss. You pass by a carpenter's shop that smells of varnish and regret. A group of ducks cross the street in a line like they're in a military parade. No one looks at you. No one has to. You're clearly not from here. Then, as if conjured from your hunger and desperation, you see it. A crooked wooden sign swinging, slightly painted with two simple characters, Wine House. The sign creaks ominously. The window below it is fogged from the inside, glowing golden from what you hope is candlelight and not a small fire. A single duck hangs from a hook in the window. It has clearly seen better days, possibly better decades. You hesitate, but then your stomach does the deciding for you. It lets out a sound that, in polite company, would have ended the conversation. So you step up to the door, which is less a door and more a wall, with ambition. It's made of warped wood planks, patched with old paper that flaps when the wind hits just right. You knock, not because you need to, but because it feels polite. The door opens before your knuckles even finish the second tap. A wave of scent hits you. Steamed rice, soy sauce, garlic, smoked duck, fried oil, sweat, wood ash, a trace of something else. Something you can't place. It might be cabbage, it might be socks. You don't ask, you step in. The warmth wraps around you instantly, not cozy warmth like a fuzzy blanket. No, this is the slap you in the face kind. A brick stove is roaring in the middle of the room like it has something to prove, and everyone is seated around it like they're worshiping at a very inefficient sun. 12 stools, 4 tables, 0 personal space. The walls are close enough to breathe on. You try to step around a puddle of something that may have once been soup or someone's lunch. You fail. Your sandal squishes again, and then you hear it. A squawk, a chicken. Inside, it struts past your foot like you're the one intruding. It pecks at a piece of radish on the floor, then hops onto a stool and stares at you like a judgmental landlord. You don't question it. Behind the counter stands a woman who might be 65, might be 105, it's hard to say. Her face is a roadmap of wrinkles, and her eyes are both kind and sharp enough to slice turnips. She doesn't speak. She just raises an eyebrow and points to a bench. You sit? Because disobeying Granny Tam isn't on tonight's menu. Tonight's. She disappears through a side curtain, leaving you alone with the patrons. And the cat? Yes, there's a cat now. Orange fat and perched beside the fire like it's the landlord. Which it might be. The chicken hops down and gives it a respectful nod. You make a mental note to do the same. No one speaks to you directly, but everyone watches you indirectly. Eyes flick up, linger, then go back to bowls. You don't blame them. You're new. You're damp. You're foreign, not in language maybe, but in vibe. Granny Tam returns with a wooden tray. There is no menu. That would require options. What you get is what you get, a bowl of something steaming and grayish, with green flecks that might be scallions, might be grass. Beside it is a cup of something translucent. You sniff it. Bad move. It's vinegar wine. You sip it anyway. Better move. It tastes like fermented commitment. It also clears your sinuses so thoroughly, you may never get sick again. The food isn't bad. Okay, it's not good either. It's chewy, salty, warm. One thing crunches. You pretend it was intentional. A passing patron catches your eye and gives you a thumbs up. You're not sure if it's for your bravery or your chewing style, but you nod back a survivor's salute. The fire crackles in the middle of the room. It's built into a square brick platform with a metal grate, and someone is toasting yams on it. You try to edge closer, but the cat lifts its paw. You freeze. The paw lowers. You may proceed. The power dynamics in this room are complex. To your left, two old men argue about whether garlic should be boiled or fried in real dumpling soup. One insists boiled, the other threatens to take it up with the emperor. They settle the dispute with rock, paper, scissors. The winner shouts fried, and the loser nods solemnly. The cat yawns. A soft humming drifts from the back of the room. A girl, maybe 14, is twisting a strand of red thread between her fingers. She hums an old lullaby that sounds like it could either put you to sleep or summon a minor spirit. It's oddly comforting. You sip your vinegar wine again. This time it tastes like you belong here. Suddenly the door bangs open. Wind rushes in, and a man in a moss-colored robe stomps through, brushing snowflakes off his shoulders. He bellows, "Is the duck still dry?" Granny Tam throws him a towel without missing a beat. He catches it, dries his face, and plops beside you. "You look new." He grunts. You nod. He eyes your bowl. You didn't get the turnip. Lucky you don't ask. Then the chicken jumps onto your table. Not walks, jumps. With the confidence of someone who pays rent here. It pecks at your bowl. Once, then walks in a slow circle on the table like it's inspecting your worth. A beat. It clucks once and hops down. Everyone in the room claps politely. You are now, it seems, accepted. You finish your food, not because it's delicious, but because it's warm, and you haven't been this warm since 2 provinces ago. Your belly is full, your toes are no longer wet, and for a moment it doesn't matter that you have nowhere to sleep tonight. You're here. In the weirdest, warmest, most illogically comforting place you've ever stumbled into. And as the fire crackles, the cat stretches, and the old men begin round two of their garlic debate. You lean back. You're not sure if this tavern exists on any map, but right now it exists for you. The fire pops again, sending up a tiny spark that drifts like a confused fairy before fading into the wooden rafters above. You're warm now, almost dangerously so. The kind of warmth that makes you question whether getting up ever again is worth the effort. But then the smell shifts. It's subtle at first. A waft of sesame oil burnt slightly, something pickled, and definitely garlic. Again, always garlic. It clings to this place like a second layer of wallpaper. The air is rich with it, like you're breathing through a soup. Granny Tam appears again, this time holding a new tray. She shuffles in silent authority, hips steady, despite the weight of 3 more steaming bowls. She sets them down at the neighboring table with a gentle thunk that somehow conveys both care and warning. A man looks up, nods, and says, "Bless your hands." She grunts, either in thanks or because she's got no time for flattery. You watch the food arrive like it's theater. One bowl contains a lump of rice submerged in what looks like mushroom tea. Another holds a tangle of cold noodles topped with what might be bean paste or mud with ambition. The third bowl is smoking, slightly full of dumplings that resemble small angry pillows. A quick sniff tells you these were boiled, not fried. Somewhere the garlic argument continues. The man closest to you gestures toward your cup. Need a top-up? You hesitate. He's already pouring. The liquid hits your cup with a gurgle and a puff of steam. It smells slightly like burnt plums and tastes better than the first round. Maybe it's growing on you. Or maybe your standards are fading like the ink on the wall scroll behind the counter. The scroll, by the way, reads, "If you don't complain, you'll be fed. If you do, you'll be heard, then ignored." A surprisingly modern customer service policy. The tavern is louder now, in that gentle, overlapping way. No one shouts. No one commands attention. Instead, it's the hum of small stories, told in mouthfuls and sideways glances. You lean in. To your right, a man is explaining to a girl how he once outran a tax collector by hiding in a barrel of soy sauce. She doesn't believe him. He insists it took 3 days for his skin to return to its original color. The girl laughs, covering her mouth, and the cat leaps from a nearby chair to sit between them like an impartial judge. In the far corner, a monk is balancing a ceramic teacup on his head while reciting something that sounds like poetry, but could also be weather predictions. The woman beside him keeps score. And just behind you, someone lets out a belch, so elegant, so round, that it ends in spontaneous applause. A napkin is thrown in the air. Someone stands and bows. You're not in a tavern. You're in a cozy fever dream. Then the door creaks open again. This time it's not snow, but wind, and someone smaller, a boy, no more than 12. His face is red from the cold, his hands chapped and wrapped in cloth. He walks to the counter, stands on tiptoe, and whispers something you can't hear. Granny Tam listens, nods, then slides a small bowl across the counter. He takes it, cups it like treasure, and slinks to the corner where the fire touches only halfway. He eats fast like it might vanish. No one says a word. No one stops him. No one asks him to pay. You realize something quietly. This place doesn't run on money, it runs on memory. Your thoughts are interrupted by a sudden whack. A wooden ladle hits the side of the stove. Granny Tam has declared something. A few patrons sit up straighter. The cat opens one eye. The chicken, who had been dozing under a table, clucks with moderate concern. "It's time," someone says. You look around, unsure if this means a performance, a tax collection, or an execution. Instead, a bowl is passed to you. Inside, dried apricots, some sliced ginger, and what you're 90% sure is preserved radish. This is dessert, your neighbor says solemnly. You nod as if this makes perfect sense. You eat the apricot. It tastes like the memory of sunshine. You eat the ginger. It tastes like a dare. You eat the radish. It tastes like a warning. Then once again silence falls, not forced, but natural, like a breath held in unison. And slowly stories begin again. Across from you, a man in scholar robes dips a brush into tea and writes characters on the wood table. It's a poem about cabbage written in couplets. Each line praises a different method of preparation: pickled, steamed, fermented, burnt. You ask if he's a chef. No, he says. I failed the civil exams 5 times. You raise your cup in sympathy. He raises his. You clink. For failure, for cabbage, for surviving anyway? Then the girl beside him leans over and tells you quite seriously that the tavern is older than the town. That it wasn't built, it appeared. That sometimes it disappears too. That if you talk too loudly about it, it won't open for you again. You believe her. Not because it makes sense, but because in this room, reality has looser stitching. Granny Tam clears another table. She moves slowly with a limp that suggests 100 winters walked barefoot. She doesn't smile, not exactly, but the corners of her mouth quiver with memory. She hums an old song off key but strong. As she passes your table, she places a small wooden token beside your bowl. It's carved roughly. 1 character. Home. You pick it up. It's warm from her hand. Or maybe from the fire. You don't ask. The man beside you leans in again. That means you passed what he grins. The test. You didn't ask what was in the soup. You laugh. A real one this time. You sit back. The ceiling above is low enough to touch, but you don't feel cramped. You feel enclosed, held, like the tavern is wrapping around you slowly, like another layer of clothing. The door opens again, the wind returns, the duck in the window sways. A new patron walks in and shakes off snow, like a dog muttering something about losing at dice. Granny Tam points him to a seat. He obeys without question. And just before your cup empties again, someone refills it. You don't know who. You don't turn to look. It doesn't matter. It's not about who poured the tea, it's that it was poured at all. A chicken hops onto your bench, sits beside you like it's listening. The cat curls around your foot. And for the first time in a long time, you feel not just warm, but wanted. This is not the kind of history you find in books. It's the kind you feel in your bones. The kind that smells like vinegar and garlic and old wood smoke. The kind that doesn't need a chapter title or a hero's name. The kind that survives in bellyfuls and whispered jokes and warm cups shared without asking. You lean forward. The fire hisses. The chicken sighs. You belong here now. And tomorrow? Well, that's someone else's story. You're not sure what time it is. Time in the tavern moves differently, more like tea cooling than minutes ticking. There's no clock, no bell tower, no stern chimes to remind you that the night is aging. Only the soft reduction of light, the way shadows stretch lazily across the wooden beams and the occasional yawn echoing from the far table. But something's shifting. The tavern is quieter now. Not silent, never that, just hushed. Even the stories seem to tiptoe. The energy has sunk into the floorboards like steam into rice. A man near the fire is tracing something in the ash with a chopstick. At first glance, you think he's doodling, but then you look closer. It's a diagram, some sort of layout, maybe a battle plan, maybe a floor map of the bathhouse he got kicked out of last year. He doesn't explain. He just draws, hums, wipes, and draws again. The cat watches with polite disinterest. At your own table, someone has placed a small dish of what looks like peanuts, though one is definitely a dried plum in disguise. You pop it in your mouth and immediately regret every decision you've made. The taste is sour, smoky, and inexplicably fishy. You try not to make a face. A nearby woman nods approvingly. You've passed another test, apparently. Granny Tam appears again, this time with a kettle as dented as your willpower. She refills cups, offers a few murmured words that are half proverb, half complaint, then retreats behind her curtain like a dragon returning to its cave. And that's when it starts. The game. You wouldn't know it was starting unless you'd been watching closely. It begins with a tap, just 3 fingers on wood, then a second, then 5. A rhythm slow and arrhythmic, like the heartbeat of a building trying to remember a song. A man clears his throat. Tell the lie, he says. Everyone perks up. The man, tall, balding, with eyebrows that deserve their own poem, looks around the room. His robe is the color of old moss. He leans forward. I once fed a ghost. She was picky. No one reacts immediately. A few nods, one chuckle. The girl from earlier, the one who believes the tavern appears and disappears, claps softly. Next, a woman in a red shawl taps twice on the table with her chopsticks. I married a man who turned into a toad every new moon. He still sends letters. I don't reply. More nods. More half smiles. Your turn, apparently. Everyone looks at you. You freeze. And then without planning it, you say, I'm from a land where people carry fire in boxes. We fly metal birds. And we build entire cities that float on light. No one laughs. No one scoffs. The girl tilts her head. Sounds noisy, she says. It is, you reply. The room accepts it like it accepts everything without judgment, only curiosity. Truth here is less important than possibility. The game isn't about lying. It's about offering another world for a moment and seeing if someone might like to visit. Then someone passes around a bowl of salted plums, sticky and dense. You chew one and immediately feel like your face is trying to fold in on itself. A man across the room raises his hand in solidarity, his eyes watering. You nod, comrades in culinary combat. The fire crackles again, and this time the spark lands on someone's sleeve. No panic. He brushes it off, gently sips his wine, and mutters, Fire wants to dance, that's all. No one disagrees. The cat shifts. The chicken is asleep now, head tucked under wing, nestled into the crook of someone's arm like a particularly feathery elbow. The tavern exhales. And then Granny Tam claps. Once, just once. It rings out clear as a temple bell. Next round, someone says. This time it's a challenge. Each person at the table must tell something that sounds ridiculous but is true. The old man with the tea poems goes first. I once found a crab in my boot. It pinched me and then died of embarrassment. The scholar beside him nods. It's the shame that gets them. The woman with the toad husband adds, My cousin gave birth to twins. One of them meows. Everyone nods. Plausible. Genetics are mysterious. You think hard, and then you say, My grandmother used to wash clothes by shouting at them. The room bursts into laughter, not the loud kind, but the warm, rolling kind. It wraps around you like the steam from a fresh bun. Someone clinks your cup. You are once again accepted. A few bowls are cleared, a few cups refilled, and then just like that the rhythm changes again. Not louder, just deeper. A man pulls out a stringed instrument from under the table. It's barely tuned. He plucks it once, it sings like a tired bird, and then he begins to play. It's not a melody, you know. It's not even a melody he knows, but it fills the room like memory, soft, fragmented, familiar, in a way that hurts. People begin to sing not words but tones, vowel sounds and half-remembered refrains. It's like a lullaby built from dreams. You close your eyes, just for a second, just enough to feel the music behind your ribs. When you open them, someone has placed a hot towel on your shoulder. You don't know who. You don't need to know. That's not how things work here. Someone sneezes. The cat sneezes back. The moment passes. And then, as if cued by some unspoken script, the tavern shifts into its final phase, the sleeping hours. A few patrons begin to stack stools against the wall. Others lay out mats, thin, scratchy, but somehow enough. You follow suit, led by instinct and the example of others. Granny Tam appears with a bundle of blankets that smell like smoke and salt. She hands them out with a nod, then disappears again. You find a spot near the stove, not too close, just warm enough. The cat curls near your feet. The man with the ghost story lies beside you. He's already snoring. The woman with the toad ex-husband mumbles in her sleep. You catch the words, "Don't eat the moon," before she rolls over. You lie back. The ceiling above you is low wood, darkened by decades of steam and oil. A spider unbothered strolls along a beam. You watch it until your eyes can't follow. And in that moment, half here, half gone, you feel the tavern exhale once more. The stories are done for now. The fire is a whisper. The night wraps around you like a second skin. You're not a guest anymore. You're furniture, part of the floor, part of the breath of this place. You don't remember falling asleep, only that you wake up smiling. Morning in the tavern doesn't arrive with trumpets or roosters or even a polite knock on the floor. It just drips in like soy sauce from a cracked bottle. Your eyes open slowly, and for a moment you're not sure if you're awake or still caught in the warmth of some fermented dream. The ceiling above you remains the same low wooden, aged to the color of a forgotten poem. The spider is gone. In its place, a streak of sunlight slides in between the rafters, catching in the steam that's already rising from somewhere in the kitchen. You lift your head. Everyone is still here. The scholar with cabbage poetry is curled like a question mark. The girl who believed in vanishing taverns has her arms slung across a pillow that used to be a sack of rice. The chicken, now awake, is strutting between feet like a landlord on inspection. The cat hasn't moved. You suspect it never does. Someone sneezes. Another person groans. A kettle whistles. Then the unmistakable clatter of bowls being stacked. Granny Tam is awake, and therefore the day has officially begun. She moves with quiet authority, sweeping through the room like a fog of ginger and salt. Her sleeves are rolled up her hair, pinned back, with something that might be a fishbone, and she's already yelling at a pot in the back room. The tavern doesn't smell like last night anymore. It smells like porridge, but not the kind you know. This porridge is thick enough to break a spoon and laced with slivers of ginger, sharp enough to register as weaponry. It's bubbling loudly in the back like it's arguing with itself. And as Granny ladles it out, each bowl lets out a puff of steam so fragrant it could wake the dead, or at least your taste buds. She places the first bowl in front of the scholar, who mutters thanks and immediately begins blowing on it like it's a sacred text. Yours arrives next. The bowl is warm but not too hot. The surface ripples with thick grains and threads of carrot scallion and something purple you choose not to question. Floating atop it is a slice of pickled radish, and resting like a crown, a single preserved plum. You stare at it. The tavern watches. You lift your spoon. The texture is interesting, somewhere between mashed rice and early concrete. But it's the warmth that matters. The ginger hits first, zingy, sharp, thrilling. Then comes the soft backdrop of grain, a little earthy, a little sweet. The plum disintegrates mid-mouth, leaving behind a wave of salty mystery. You chew slowly. You swallow. You survive? A man near the fire nods. Not bad for your first morning. You want to ask how many mornings he's had here, but something in his smile suggests he might not know either. Everyone eats in gentle silence. Not reverent silence, just the sleepy, functional hush of mouths busy and thoughts half-formed. Someone slurps loudly. Someone else claps once inexplicably. The chicken hops onto a stool and watches like it owns stock in this establishment. Midway through your bowl, Granny Tam appears beside you. She places something next to your cup. A ginger candy. Handmade. Square brown sticky at the edges. For the road, she says. You blink. I'm leaving, she shrugs. That's how it works. You leave before the tea gets bitter. You glance at your cup. It's nearly empty. The tea is cold. She's not wrong. But your limbs feel heavy. Not with sleep, but with the weight of staying. You could sit here for hours listening, eating, letting time collapse into stewed vegetables and trivia. But that's not how this place works. That's not how history works. You get up. Your legs ache slightly, not from the floor, but from the warmth leaving you. You stretch. The scholar groans in sympathy. The chicken flaps twice, then hops onto your now empty bowl, pecking it with surgical precision. You nod a thank you to Granny Tam. She hands you a cloth pouch with the ginger candy inside tied neatly with a piece of red string. You're not sure why she gives it to you, but it feels important, like a receipt for something more than soup. As you head for the door, the regulars return to their rituals. Someone's stacking stones on the windowsill. Another is tying knots into a piece of fishing net that's not attached to anything. The ghost feeder from the night before is now feeding the cat, who accepts the offering with imperial disinterest. You reach the door. The sunlight outside is brighter than expected. You shield your eyes, and then something odd. The sign above the door, the one that read when you entered, is gone. No creaking wood, no swinging paint. Just a blank board, empty. As if the tavern no longer requires introduction. You step outside. The cold hits immediately. It's dry and sharp, full of wind and the scent of wood smoke and mud. The road you came down is still there, but it looks different. Narrower somehow. Less familiar. You turn back. The tavern is still behind you. For now. Its windows steam in gentle curves. Inside, the cat moves toward the fire. The people continue talking, laughing, living in the soft hush of old wood and slow mornings. You take one step forward, then another. And the tavern doesn't vanish. It simply fades into the background of the town like an actor exiting stage, left seamlessly, silently, without disrupting the scene. You walk through alleys of brick and paper, past laundry lines and weeping bamboo. You pass a fruit seller arranging pears by size, a man trying to teach a goat how to climb stairs, and a child chasing a ball made of stitched rags. Normal, ordinary, too ordinary. You turn a corner. There's a tea shop where the tavern should be, a proper one. Clean, symmetrical, boring. The owner smiles too quickly, offers you chrysanthemum tea and a seat near the window. You shake your head. You keep walking. Down another lane, retracing your steps. You ask someone, "Excuse me, is there a tavern nearby?" One with a duck in the window? A fire pit in the middle. The man scratches his chin. No taverns on this street, closest one's 2 roads over, but they don't serve duck, just noodles. You nod politely, but your stomach sinks. You ask someone else, an old woman selling turnips. She looks at you, squints, then says, "Oh, you mean the place that only opens when you're tired?" You blink. "Yes," she smiles. "Haven't seen that place in years." "Does it move?" "No." "But people do." You nod. You understand, sort of. You walk again. Eventually you stop asking. Not because you're tired, but because you're starting to enjoy the mystery more than the answer. In your pocket, the ginger candy is still warm. You unwrap it slowly. It tastes like smoke honey and something unplaceable. Something soft, something kind. And as you keep walking, the taste lingers. Not just on your tongue, but somewhere deeper. Somewhere between your ribs. Next to your memory of the cat. And just behind the moment you knew the chicken had accepted you. You'll try to explain it to someone someday. You'll fail. But that's okay. Some stories aren't meant to be told perfectly. They're meant to be remembered in flavors and fragments. In the way your hands smelled of smoke. In the way your cup was refilled without asking. In the way the soup wasn't good, but it was exactly what you needed. And just like that, the tavern becomes part of your history. Not the kind written down, but the kind that keeps you warm. You don't remember exactly how long you've been walking since leaving the tavern. The streets of the Song Dynasty town seem to stretch and coil, like lazy dragons curling around courtyards and alleyways filled with drying fish and laundry that's seen better days. The cobblestones beneath your feet are uneven patched with mud chicken feathers and the occasional piece of unidentifiable vegetable. And yet you're not lost. You're lingering, as if you're afraid that the further you walk, the more the memory of that strange, warm little tavern will start to fade like steam off a morning bowl of porridge. But here's the thing, it doesn't. In fact, the tavern clings to your clothes, to your hair, even to the taste in your mouth. A soft ghost of ginger and vinegar wrapped in the memory of firelight and polite chickens. And in your pocket, the ginger candy still hasn't melted. You press on. The market is waking up now, stretching its limbs in a chorus of clattering pans and grumpy vendors arguing over the exact ripeness of a pear. Someone's yelling about a duck that escaped its cage and is currently chasing a dog. No one intervenes. This is normal here. You stop near a stall selling clay whistles shaped like birds. "Traveler," the merchant says, eyeing your clothes. "You from the mountains," you shake your head. "The river, then?" "No," you reply with a small smile. "Farther." He leans in. "Ah, one of those kinds of travelers." He says it like it explains everything. You thank him, walk on. Eventually you find a stone bench beside a pond. The water is still except for a single frog sitting on a lily pad, like it has major responsibilities. You sit, take out the ginger candy, unwrap it slowly. It sticks to your fingers, resistant, like a toddler being told bedtime has arrived. But you manage. It tastes like last night. You close your eyes, and for just a second you swear you hear it again. The sound of a chopstick tapping the fire pit rim. The voice of the man who fed a ghost. The scratch of a calligraphy brush writing poetry about fermented cabbage. And then, hey, you jerk awake. There's a man standing over you with a sack of turnips and the facial expression of someone trying to remember why they were mad. "You fell asleep with your mouth open," he says. "Not safe. Birds will take your soul." You blink. Is that common? He shrugs. Only if you're lucky. You nod, trying to look like someone who understands bird-related soul theft. He tosses you a turnip. You catch it without thinking. You look like you've had a weird night, he adds, and walks away whistling. He's not wrong. Okay, let's pause here for a second. You still with me if you're listening to this, under the covers, face pressed into a pillow, half asleep and maybe drooling just a little. Congratulations. You're doing it right. If, however, you're sitting upright at 3:17 a.m. with a snack in hand and eyes wide open, first of all, impressive commitment. Second, have you considered why your snack smells like old vinegar? Just asking. Anyway, let's do a quick reality check. You've been welcomed by a tavern that may or may not exist. You've played a truth or lie game with people who may or may not be dead. And you've shared your breakfast table with a chicken that knew more about hospitality than your last Airbnb host. Still think medieval China was all scrolls and scholars. Yeah, me neither. All right, sip some water. Pull the blanket up to your chin. Maybe blink really slowly once or twice. Let's get back to it. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. Time's gotten wobbly again. Eventually, you find yourself back on the main road where wooden wheels creak and carts trundle by, with a kind of weary dignity. The air smells like smoke, horses, and plum wine that should have been bottled last week. You spot a banner ahead flapping lazily in the wind. Lantern Market open until the moon gets bored. Promising. You follow the flow of the crowd until the street narrows into a row of small stalls. Lanterns hang like floating jellyfish, glowing orange and red, casting soft halos onto the cobblestones. One stall offers medicinal teas made with moss and complicated promises. Another sells roasted chestnuts wrapped in bamboo leaves. And then you see it, a booth that claims handwritten in brushstrokes, the Tavern experience, brought to you by memory. You freeze. Behind the counter sits a middle-aged man with a wispy beard and eyes that look like he's been places. He's carving wooden tokens, each one bearing a single character. Beside him is a tiny iron kettle steaming softly. There's no food, no drinks, just stories. You've been there, he says, without looking up. Your mouth is suddenly dry. What the tavern with the fire pit and the cat that judges you. You nod slowly. He smiles, finishes a carving, and slides the token toward you. It says, "Already home." You don't ask questions. You don't need to, because by now you're starting to understand. This tavern isn't a building. It's a moment. It's a place you find when you've gone too far, walked too long, and just need a bowl of soup and someone to lie to. It's a story so old, no one remembers who told it first. And every time you tell it again, it becomes more real. The man pours you a cup of tea that smells faintly like the ginger candy. You sip. It's warm, not just in temperature, but in tone, like a blanket knitted out of song. You sit with him a while. He doesn't ask where you're from. He doesn't ask where you're going. He just lets the silence settle between you like old friends sitting on the edge of a memory. At some point, you stand. He nods. You nod. And the world moves again. By evening, you're walking along the outer wall of the city. The lanterns above flicker. In the distance, someone is singing a lullaby you don't recognize, but somehow know the tune to. You stop at a bridge, lean on the railing. Beneath the river carries old leaves and new reflections. You see your face in the water, a little older, a little warmer. The candy's gone now, the token's still in your pocket. You touch it gently and whisper a thank you to no one, but somewhere perhaps, in a firelit room where a fat orange cat still rules, From its brick pedestal, someone smiles. And maybe, just maybe, another bowl is being set out. Not because they expect you back, but because places like that always keep one ready, just in case. Night returns to the Song dynasty like a silk curtain pulled gently across the sky. The sun slips away behind tile roofs and crooked chimneys, leaving a hush in its wake that even the street vendors seem to respect. You've circled the town now, walked its winding alleys, peered into temples and tea houses, bought nothing, said little. Not because you're shy, just because you're still carrying the weight of last night. Not heavy, just warm, like a hand on your shoulder. Your feet ache in the good way. The way that means you've gone far enough. And that's when you smell it. You pause, turn your head. Ginger, garlic, that unmistakable perfume of cabbage being boiled slightly too long in a room with too few windows. No, it can't be, but there down a side alley lit only by the flicker of a dying lantern, you see a faint red glow. A door you hadn't noticed before. Not new, not old, just waiting. You approach slowly. The sign above is blank again. No name, no invitation, but your hand reaches out anyway. You knock. The door opens, and just like that, you're back. But it's not quite the same. The room is darker this time, smaller, fewer people. The fire still burns in the center, but lower. The shadows are longer. The cat is missing. The chicken is asleep. And Granny Tam isn't here. In her place stands a boy, maybe 14. He wears the same gray apron, holds the same dented ladle, but his hands shake ever so slightly. He nods at you, says nothing, and returns to the kitchen. You sit, you wait. A bowl arrives. Not porridge, not soup. Something new, noodles in a thick broth with slices of dried mushroom and a single quail egg floating like a lost moon. You eat. It tastes like silence, like someone trying their best. And for reasons you can't explain, that makes it perfect. A few moments later, someone sits beside you. You glance sideways. It's the old man who claimed he fed a ghost. He's wrapped in a new robe, this time blue, patterned with clouds. Or maybe ink stains. You came back, he says, not looking at you. I didn't mean to. He smiles. No one ever does. You both eat in silence. Then he leans in. Want to hear something odd? You nod. The fire went out last week. Your eyes flick toward the hearth. Flames flicker softly, dancing like tired performers. I relit it, he says. But it's not the same. You can tell, can't you? You can. Somehow. The cat left the day before. Took the good blanket with him. A beat. You think he'll come back? The man shrugs. Maybe. Or maybe he just got tired of people pretending they didn't need him. You don't reply. You finish your noodles. When the bowl is empty, the boy returns and clears it without a word. You see it then, a small tattoo on the inside of his wrist. The character Gia home, same as the wooden token. You're the new keeper, you say. He nods once. A woman enters. She looks cold, lost. You recognize the expression. The boy seats her, brings tea, offers a blanket. You see it clear as candlelight. The tavern is shifting. Not dying, not disappearing, just becoming something new. Tell me, the old man says, swirling tea in his cup. What did you do today? You hesitate, walked, sat by a pond, tried to buy a bird whistle. Did you succeed? He smiles. Good. Bird whistles are a scam. Just scream at the birds. Same effect. You laugh. It surprises you. He sips his tea. Want to play the game again? You raise an eyebrow. Truth or lie? No, he says. The other one. The one where we admit things we shouldn't. You nod. You first. He leans in, eyes twinkling. Sometimes I add water to the rice wine and pretend it's aged longer. You gasp in mock horror. You monster. You think. Then I once pretended to understand a poem so I could impress someone. He nods solemnly. We've all been there. Another sip. I like the cat, you say suddenly. He doesn't laugh. We all did. The woman by the fire stirs. Her blanket has slipped. You get up, walk over, and tuck it around her shoulders. She doesn't wake, but she smiles. The boy nods at you, approvingly, or maybe just acknowledging that you're no longer a stranger. You sit back down. The old man is gone. So is his cup. Only a ring of condensation remains. Later that night, the boy begins to close up. He dims the lanterns, shovels coals, stacks bowls. You offer to help. He lets you. You scrub a dish that looks older than some cities. He sweeps with a broom made of twigs. The fire sputters once, then settles. A final glow. As you place the last cup on the shelf, he turns to you. Will you come back? He asks. You think? Then will the tavern still be here? He shrugs. That's up to you. Outside the wind is colder, the street is empty. You walk for a while, then stop, then walk again. At some point you look back. The tavern is gone. You expected this. What you didn't expect was to feel okay about it. 'Cause this time you're not leaving it behind. You're carrying it with you. Somewhere in your pocket, the wooden token taps gently against your leg. A quiet heartbeat, a reminder, and maybe just maybe if you ever need it again, the tavern will find you. After all, that's what home does. It waits, no matter how far you go, no matter how long you stay away. It leaves the door unlocked. A bowl of soup on the stove and a cat watching just in case. The morning after your second visit to the tavern is strangely clear. The air carries no scent of burning wood or fermented tea, no hint of ginger or radish or magic. It smells like river mud, damp cloth, and an early breeze trying too hard to be poetic. You're standing in the middle of a street that wasn't there yesterday. At least you're pretty sure it wasn't. The stones are too smooth, the lanterns too new. The stall across from you sells nothing but thread. Just thread. Bundles of red, blue, black, and something suspiciously called Festival Gray. The vendor nods at you like he's been expecting you since last spring. You keep walking. Not because you know where you're going, but because stopping feels like it might invite too many questions. Your hands are cold. You tuck them into your sleeves. You miss the fire. Not the heat exactly, not even the crackle, just the quiet way it filled space like a third character in every conversation. And the cat. You miss the cat too. You eventually find yourself on a small stone bridge that arches over a canal. The water below is still. So still, in fact, that your reflection looks surprised to see you. A child passes behind you dragging a kite shaped like a fish. The kite isn't flying. It just scrapes along the stone, making a dry, flapping sound like distant applause. You watch them disappear into a cluster of willow trees. And then, because you have nothing better to do and because no one's told you not to, you speak aloud. Did any of that really happen? The pond doesn't answer, which is probably for the best. By midday, you've wandered your way into another market. This one is louder, packed, colorful, in that disorganized, glorious way only true chaos can be. A man is yelling about dried squid. A woman is yelling at the man yelling about dried squid. A group of teenagers are daring each other to eat something gelatinous and probably still alive. You breathe it all in. It's comforting in a loud, overstimulating, mildly terrifying way. Then you see it. A stall, tucked between two others, easy to miss like a comma between arguments. There's no sign. Just a wooden table. Behind it, a woman you've never seen before is carving small figures out of clay. You approach slowly. On the table are dozens of tiny sculptures. A cat curled mid-yawn. A bowl of soup, steam rising in real carved swirls. A pair of chopsticks frozen in the act of pulling noodles. And at the far corner, a fire pit perfectly miniaturized, complete with coals and a chicken leg that looks suspiciously judgmental. You reach out. Careful, the woman says. They remember you. You freeze. I'm sorry what, she smiles not unkindly. The figures. They're memory anchors. They hold the scent, the sound, the feel of places you've been. You carry them for a while, or maybe they carry you. You glance down. Your fingers are already wrapped around the tiny fire pit. It's warm. You set it back. Slowly. Can I buy one? She tilts her head. They're not for sale, but they choose. A beat. Then she says, hold out your hand. You do. She reaches under the table and pulls out a small clay disc no larger than a coin. She places it in your palm. It's stamped with the character. To wait. What's it mean? She shrugs. Depends on when you ask. You open your mouth to press further, but she's already turned away, carving another figure, humming a song you swear you've heard near a fire before. You walk away. The disc stays in your pocket. As the day rolls on, so does your unease. Not the anxious kind, not fear, just disorientation, like you've stepped off a spinning ride and the world hasn't stopped wobbling yet. You miss the tavern in a way that surprises you. Not the food, not even the stories. Just the sense of place, of being inside something that didn't need you to prove anything. Somewhere between the broth and the jokes and the chicken's side eye, you felt permitted to exist. That's rare. You find a bench under a plum tree and sit. Across from you, a pair of elderly men play a game of Wakey. Their stones click on the board with the kind of finality that suggests very little is being left to chance. They don't notice you. Or if they do, they don't mind you watching. You eat a roasted chestnut from a paper cone. It's too hot. You wince. One of the old men chuckles. You're not from here, he says, not looking up. You nod. He plays a stone. That's good. Fresh eyes see old ghosts. The other man snorts. Or just trip over the same stones. They both laugh. It's not cruel. Just practiced. Tell me, the first man says, do you believe in places that move? You hesitate. Then I used to think they were myths. And now you look down at the clay disc in your palm. The heat from your chestnut has warmed it slightly. I think they're invitations. The second man nods. Careful traveler. Some doors only open once, I know you say. But some memories keep knocking. The first man smiles, then maybe you're the door. You finish your chestnut. Watch the game continue. And when you finally stand, the plum tree lets go of a blossom just for you. That night you don't go looking for the tavern. You go looking for a corner of the world quiet enough to miss it. You find an abandoned garden behind what used to be a scholar's house. The gate creaks like it's sighing. The stone path is half-eaten by moss. But the moon is full and someone has left a cushion by the old stone bench. You sit, you breathe, you listen. Nothing happens, which is exactly what you wanted. Then somewhere behind you a kettle whistles. You turn, but there's no kettle, no steam, just the breeze through bamboo. Still you smile, because the sound was real enough. Because maybe the tavern isn't a place you go back to. Maybe it's a rhythm you carry, a warmth you remember into being, a story that tells you when it's ready. You lean back. Above you the stars don't blink. They just wait, like someone stirring soup behind a curtain, waiting for you to sit down. And somewhere, possibly in a different time or maybe just a different mood, Granny Tam smiles, wipes her hands on her apron, and tells the cat he's not done yet. The cat blinks slowly, then returns to his nap. Because, of course, he already knew. The days roll forward like a slow wagon on an uneven path, predictable, rhythmic, a little noisy when you least expect it. You've stopped trying to chase the tavern. You wake in new guest houses now with paper walls and thin blankets. You eat whatever the vendor closest to your room is shouting about. Some mornings it's fried dough. Other mornings it's duck-flavored something. You've learned not to ask. But each night before sleep takes you, you still find yourself thinking about the warmth of that fire, the quiet laughter that danced around bowls, the clink of uneven ceramic, the smell of that sweet vinegar ginger candy melting just slightly too fast in your hand, and the chicken. Of course, one evening you're invited to a festival outside the city wall. It's the kind of invitation you accept because someone hands you a stick with a paper lantern on it and says, "Go." There's no address, just laughter, music, footsteps all moving the same direction. You follow. The path winds through a low field lit with lanterns hanging from bamboo poles. Each light sways in its own rhythm, casting shadows like memories that haven't made up their minds yet. At the center of it all, there's a platform surrounded by musicians. Their instruments look old enough to have seen dynasties rise and fall, but their fingers are fast and loose, as if even history can be told with a grin and a beat. You sit, you listen, and then, because apparently that's just your fate now, you hear someone say your name. Not loudly, not urgently, just like a fact. You turn. It's the girl from the tavern, the one who believed it appeared and disappeared. She's older now, or maybe just taller. Her eyes are the same wide, curious, slightly amused, like she knows something you don't. "You came," she says. "I didn't know I was supposed to." She shrugs. No one ever does. She hands you a cup of tea. It's hot, but not scalding. Sweet with a strange bitter note at the back, like truth pretending to be kindness. You sip. She sits. The music continues, people dance, and for a moment you're not sure where the festival ends and the memory begins. "You miss it, don't you?" she asks. You nod. Every day. Why, you think? Then because it was honest, in its own way? She nods, satisfied. That's a good reason. You glance at her. Do you still believe it moves? She grins. Oh no, I know it moves. I've seen it. Where? Here, there. Once in a fishing village. Once at the top of a mountain. It's never the same, but it's always itself. You smile. How she shrugs. Some places follow need not maps. Later that night, she pulls out a tiny carved object. It's a replica of the fire pit again. This one has tiny painted embers that glow faintly under the moonlight. "I made this one," she says, "from memory." You take it. It's warm. Not warm like the sun. Warm like the moment just before someone says something kind. The kind of warmth you only notice once it's gone and realize it's been there all along. "Will it take me back?" She shakes her head. "No, but it might remind you how to listen." To what? To the part of you that knew how to belong there. You part ways near midnight? She vanishes into the crowd, as if she were only part of the festival's performance, like a dancer exiting stage left. You keep walking until the lanterns grow fewer. The road narrows, and then almost too softly to hear a sound. Clink. Ceramic. Unmistakable. You pause, turn, nothing. Then again clink. You follow it. Down an alley, around a corner. A A curtain blows in the wind. Behind it just a bench, but on the bench is a bowl, and next to the bowl a note. You unfold it. Some things come back when you stop asking them to. The bowl is empty, but it smells like soup. You sit, you breathe. The wind moves past you like a sigh from someone who's been waiting. When you wake up, the bowl is gone. So is the note, so is the bench. You're sitting on a flat stone near a temple bell. A monk is sweeping nearby. He doesn't seem surprised to see you. Did you rest well? He asks. You nod. Good, he says. Not many do these days. You look around. It's morning again. The city hums in the distance. Birds argue in a nearby tree. The monk offers you a steamed bun. You take it. It tastes vaguely familiar. You glance at him. Do you know a woman named Granny Tam? He smiles softly. No one knows her. She knows us. That feels true. The rest of your day is quiet, but in the best way. You notice more. The crack in a teacup, the way a scarf is tied, the smile between two people who don't say a word. That night you choose not to look for the tavern. You stay in a regular inn. You eat regular rice. You sleep on a mat that smells like damp moss and old books. And as you drift off, you whisper, not to the room, but to the memory, thank you. Because sometimes the best stories aren't the ones you chase. They're the ones that wait until you're ready to stop running. And somewhere maybe between cities, maybe between dreams, the fire crackles. A bowl is set, the chicken sighs, and the cat lifts one eye as if to say, he'll be back, then returns to sleep. Because as always, he already knew. You leave the city on a morning painted in brushstrokes of gray. The sky is soft, like it hasn't woken up yet. Trees sway like they're waiting for someone to give them a reason to stand still. You carry no map, no destination, only a quiet certainty that walking is the right thing to do. You're not escaping. Not really. You're extending the thread, the one that started with vinegar soup and ghost stories and cats who think too highly of themselves. That thread hasn't snapped. It's just gone slack, like it's waiting for you to tug it gently and see what trembles on the other end. The road curves through villages where everyone seems too busy to notice you and too kind to ignore you. In one, a farmer gives you a roasted yam, unasked. In another, a child draws a smiley face in the dirt and says, "That's you." In a third, someone sells you a pair of socks, knitted so unevenly they feel like tiny riddles on your feet. You keep going. The trees thin out. The hills grow taller. The clouds descend. One night, you sleep beneath a tree that hums when the wind passes through it. You dream of chopsticks tapping stone and wake with the taste of mushroom broth on your tongue. It doesn't surprise you anymore. Eventually you reach a mountain path. It's not marked, which at this point feels like a glowing recommendation. You follow it. It's steep, but gentle like a grandmother who still makes you carry your own laundry. The trail is lined with moss and laughter. You don't know where the laughter is coming from, but you don't question it. You arrive near sunset at a monastery. It's small, built into the side of a cliff, like someone whispered it there and forgot to take it back. You're not a monk, they know that, but they let you stay anyway. The monks don't talk much. They nod like punctuation marks. When they do speak, it's in phrases that sound like riddles but feel like answers to questions you haven't learned to ask yet. Water boiled too fast forgets its tea. A full cup holds nothing new. Sometimes the fire pretends to sleep. You write these down, not to understand them, but to remember how they made you pause. One afternoon, you help carry buckets of water up the hill. It's raining, which seems unfair. A monk half your size walks past with 2 buckets completely dry. You look at your sleeves soaked. He smiles. The water stays outside when you let it in. You nod as if that clears everything up. That evening you're invited to sit in the meditation hall. It smells of pine and quiet. The floor creaks politely beneath you. A single candle flickers at the front. You sit, you breathe. Minutes pass like clouds. You think of soup, then of socks, then of the cat, then of nothing. And then something shifts. It's not sound, not light, not even air. It's awareness, like someone somewhere has turned a page. And the story you're in is suddenly aware it's being read. Your eyes open. The candle flickers once, and in your lap, resting gently, as if it had always been there, a wooden spoon. Old, worn, still damp with memory. You don't speak, neither do the monks. But as you rise and leave the room, one of them places a single plum in your hand. For balance, you assume. That night you sleep deeper than you have in years. You dream not of the tavern, but of its ingredients. A laughing bowl, a stubborn fire, a chicken giving life advice in rhymes, the cat, of course, just watching. You wake before dawn, not with urgency, but readiness. The monks serve you rice and tea. You bow, they bow. No one needs words. You begin the descent. Halfway down the mountain, a dog joins you. It doesn't bark, it doesn't sniff, it just walks. When you stop for water, it waits. When you slip on a root, it pretends not to notice. You name it "excuse me," because that's what it says with its eyes every time you block the path. That evening, you find a clearing beside a stream. You build a small fire, roast chestnuts, share half with "excuse me." He pretends he hates them, then eats 6. You lie back watching stars blink like fireflies with commitment issues. You reach into your bag and pull out the clay fire pit the girl gave you. It's still warm. You place it beside the real fire, and the 2 flames seem to nod at each other, in recognition, in approval. You fall asleep smiling. The next day, you find a village. It's not on any map you've seen. You're beginning to suspect maps are just rumors pretending to be facts. In the village, people wear clothes mended with color, patches so bright they look like declarations. A tailor stops you. "You're wearing too much quiet," she says. She sews a red thread onto your sleeve. Doesn't ask, doesn't charge. It helps the tavern find you again, she explains. You don't question it. By now you've learned better. You stay in the village 2 days, help stack firewood, teach a child how to whistle, fail at teaching a duck to do the same. The duck holds a grudge. The child doesn't. The night before you leave, an old man hands you a folded piece of paper. "You've been carrying stories," he says. "This one wants to go with you." You thank him. He shrugs. "It's not mine. I just held it a while." You don't open it. Not yet. You walk on. Each day the thread grows stronger. You feel it. Not pulling you toward the tavern, but reminding you what it felt like to be still and warm and part of something quietly ridiculous. You smile more. People notice. One girl says, "You look like someone who's heard a very good secret." You wink. "Maybe I have." She nods. "I hope it had soup in it." You nod back. It did. And then one evening as twilight wraps around the hills, like a blanket made of sighs, you find a stone with a mark carved into it, a bowl with steam. You pause, look around. Nothing. No door, no smoke, no sarcastic poultry. Just a field? But you know. You sit, you wait. And when the stars are high and the wind shifts just slightly, you hear it. A clink, a sigh, a soft chuckle. and the sound of a cat deciding not to stand up. You close your eyes and whisper, "I'm here." The tavern doesn't appear, not yet, but the ground warms beneath you, and somewhere far off, a pot begins to boil. You wake before the sun, not because anything startled you, not because there's a rooster with anger issues, though in fairness one does crow eventually several fields away with the dramatic flair of someone auditioning for a village opera. You wake because something inside you nudged you gently, like a friend whispering, "Come look." You sit up on the hillside where you slept, the dew clinging to your sleeves, the air still clinging to the night. The sky is beginning to blur into colors, as if someone's taken a brush soaked in tea and started painting gently outward from the horizon. The clay fire pit you kept beside you overnight is cold now, but not empty. Inside, someone has placed a single scallion. You stare at it. A scallion. Fresh, crisp, slightly ridiculous. You don't laugh, not because it isn't funny, but because it's exactly the kind of message the tavern would leave. "You're getting close," the scallion says, without saying anything. You tuck it gently into your pack. A talisman, or perhaps a punchline. Same thing, really. You walk. The trail narrows, then vanishes. That's usually a good sign. You pass trees bent at angles. Trees don't normally bend, like they were leaning in to hear a really good story and forgot to straighten up. Birds follow you for a while, then get bored. You stop to drink from a stream and find a small pile of pebbles stacked like a miniature pagoda. On top, a single feather, black, curved, balanced like an afterthought. You nod to it. It nods back. Metaphorically. Around midday, you reach a clearing filled with wind chimes. No buildings, no stalls, just hundreds of chimes tied to trees, to sticks to each other, made of wood, metal, clay, and bizarrely soup spoons. The sound is indescribable, not because it's too beautiful, but because it's so many things at once, tinkling, thudding, clinking, echoing, like being inside a conversation between weather and memory. A woman sits in the middle of the field, surrounded by strings, knots, and half-finished chimes. She gestures for you to join her. You do. No words are exchanged. She hands you a spool of thread and a bent spoon. You begin tying without knowing how. The knot doesn't hold. She nods, approvingly. You try again. Still wrong. She smiles. Eventually you stop tying and just listen. The wind moves. The chimes answer. The silence fills the spaces between. You don't stay long. You don't have to. Before you leave, she presses a string into your palm. One end has a knot. The other does not. "You'll know where to tie it," she says. You believe her. You spend the night in a grove of peach trees. A monk with no monastery shares pickled turnip and stories about carp who teach poetry. You trade him your last chestnut and a story about a tavern that serves sarcasm and noodles in equal measure. He grins. "I've heard of that place." You raise an eyebrow. "Truly." No, he laughs. "But I want to have heard of it." And that's almost the same. He sings you a lullaby that starts in Mandarin and ends in something older than language. You sleep well. In the morning, there's a trail of rice grains leading from your bedroll to the edge of the grove. You follow it, because of course you do. It winds through grass down a slope and ends at a small wooden sign. No words, just a carved image, a chicken, wearing a very smug expression. You've arrived, but there's no tavern, not yet. Just a tree, and under the tree a table, and on the table a bowl. It's empty. You sit, you wait. Nothing happens. You wait longer, still nothing. You close your eyes and remember the taste of ginger, the crackle of fire, The cat's yawn, the silence after a good lie. You breathe in. Suddenly clink. Your eyes snap open. The bowl is no longer empty. Steam curls up in a lazy spiral. The scent is familiar, impossible, absurd. It's that soup, the one you never identified. That tasted like boiled forgiveness. You don't touch it, not yet. Instead, you whisper, "I'm here." And the air answers with a breeze that smells like wet wood and ancient laughter. Across from you, a figure appears, not suddenly, just inevitably. It's Granny Tam, or maybe not. She's younger now, or older. Her hair is darker, or grayer. Her hands are the same, those never change. The ladle is still dented. She sits, pours tea from a kettle that wasn't there a moment ago. You don't speak, neither does she. You sip. It tastes like nothing and everything, like every time you were lost and found your way by accident. She nods once. You nod back. You eat the soup. It is somehow better than before, not because it's warmer, but because you are. She places something on the table between you. A stone, flat, round, smooth, carved with a single character guide to return. You reach for it. She covers your hand with hers. "You don't need this anymore," she says. Her voice is soft but solid, like bamboo that's lived through storms. You hesitate. Then why show it to me, so you know it's always there? She stands. The cat appears beside her. He looks exactly the same. You nod to him. He blinks slowly. The chicken waddles in, next pecks your shoe, then sighs with ancient judgment. You grin. "Thank you," you say. Granny Tam smiles. "Tell someone?" "What, the story, or part of it?" "Doesn't matter who or when, just tell it." You nod. She pats your shoulder. "Leave when you're ready." Then she walks away. The cat follows, so does the chicken. You sit in the silence they leave behind. You finish your tea, you breathe, and when the steam fades, you rise. The table is gone, the bowl is gone, but your hands are warm, your heart is full, and in your pocket the string you were given earlier now has a knot on both ends. You smile, tie it around your wrist, and start walking. Not forward, not backward, just onward, which is exactly enough. You walk through the hills as morning becomes afternoon, and afternoon becomes something quieter. Not quite evening, just the in-between. The path is soft beneath your feet, muffled by pine needles and dust. There's no wind, but the trees sway anyway, like they're humming to themselves, like they're remembering. You don't ask for directions, you're not lost. The fire from the tavern, real or imagined, burns somewhere in your chest, keeping you pointed. You pass a shrine so old that the god inside has retired. A squirrel now lives there, offering nuts instead of blessings. You leave it a piece of dried plum from your pack. It accepts the gift with a nod that borders on divine. Farther ahead there's a gate, half standing, half memory. Vines crawl through its cracks. The paper charms have faded words now only legible to ghosts. You bow as you pass, just in case, because if the tavern taught you anything, it's that politeness is the price of miracles. You reach a ridge overlooking a valley painted in dusk. Smoke rises from a distant farmhouse. Someone somewhere is chopping onions too loudly. Children's laughter echoes faintly off-key, but in tune with life. And suddenly, you miss it again. The tavern, not the place, the rhythm, the way it folded time, slowed you down, gave you permission to be utterly and completely human, flaws and fumbles and all. You sit down on a rock, not because you're tired, but because the moment deserves to be sat with. Out of your pocket you pull the smooth stone Granny Tam showed you. You didn't take it, but somehow it's here. It's warm, the character carved into it. He glows faintly in the fading light. You close your eyes, you listen. Not for footsteps, not for fire, for stillness. And in that stillness you feel it again. That soft, unmistakable presence, like a coat placed gently around your shoulders, like a bowl sliding across a table without being pushed, like a cat watching you from a shelf you hadn't noticed. You open your eyes. Nothing has changed, but everything has. You rise, begin walking again. Just before the sun drops fully behind the hills, you find yourself on a narrow road flanked by bamboo. The air smells of salt and soy. Lanterns begin to flicker to life one by one without hands to light them. And there it is. Not a tavern, not this time. A courtyard, simple, worn, and quiet. You step inside. There's no fire in the center, no tables, no Granny Tam, just you and a cup, sitting on a low stone bench, steam rising lazily like it knew you were coming, like it never stopped waiting. You approach slowly, sit, lift the cup. It smells like ginger, tastes like peace, not joy, not comfort. Peace. The kind that comes after the story's been told, after the punchline, after the last bite, when all that's left is the silence and the satisfaction. A paper rests beneath the cup, folded, unfolded, folded again. You open it. The handwriting is shaky, confident, familiar. You came back, but more importantly, you brought others with you, even if you don't know it yet. You smile, and for the first time in days, maybe weeks, you cry. Not from sadness, from arrival, because some homes don't live in buildings. Some fires don't need tending. Some stories don't end. They echo and echo. You don't remember falling asleep in the courtyard, but you wake to soft light and the smell of rice steaming somewhere just out of view. No one's around. Not Granny Tam. Not the boy with the soup that tasted like silence. Not the cat with judgmental eyes. Not even the chicken who has by now earned your deepest respect. Just you and a breeze. And that kind of morning where the world feels unwrapped and gentle, like it's waiting for you to move before it starts making noise again. You sit up slowly. Your cup is gone, but the warmth remains. You stretch, stand, brush the dust from your sleeves. The courtyard is still, but not empty. There's a feeling in the air like a conversation just finished, or a song that ended a second before you woke. On the ground nearby is a folded piece of cloth. You pick it up. It's a napkin, hand-stitched, the edges frayed, the middle embroidered with the character to listen. You tie it around your wrist. It feels right. You leave the courtyard without really meaning to. The stone path leads you through a bamboo archway and out onto another trail, one that seems vaguely familiar, even though you've never walked it before. A few paces down, a woman is boiling tea by the side of the path. She waves you over without words. You sit. She hands you a small cup. It tastes of mint and memory. You close your eyes, breathe. When you open them, she's gone. No sign of a fire, no kettle, no footprints. Only your cup and the echo of warmth in your chest. You pass through villages where people smile before they speak. They ask no questions but offer answers anyway. A man gives you half a steamed bun. A child points to the sky and says, "You missed the dragon like it's your fault for blinking." You laugh. And it's not until that moment that you realize how often you've been laughing lately. Not loudly, not for show. Quiet laughter. The kind that comes from the bones. From being a little less alone in the world, even if no one's holding your hand. You keep walking. Your boots are worn. The red thread on your sleeve is unraveling. The napkin tied at your wrist flutters like a tiny flag, and you think maybe this is what it means to carry a story. Not to remember every detail, but to be changed by it, to bring it with you without trying. As the day drifts toward dusk, you come across a painter sitting by a riverbank. She's painting steam. That's it. Just steam. Not bowls, not faces, not scenery. Just the delicate curl of vapor rising from an invisible source. You sit beside her. She offers you a brush. You hesitate, then dip it into ink and try to paint what soup sounds like when it's shared in silence. You fail, but she nods anyway. Close enough, she says. You leave her a scallion. She doesn't ask why. You both understand. That night you make camp near a shrine shaped like a bowl. You light a small fire. Not to cook with, just to watch. As the flames curl and shift, you find yourself speaking aloud, softly, not for anyone to hear. You tell the fire about the cat, about the time you won the lying game by telling the truth, about the soup you never figured out but miss every time the wind carries a certain smell, and the fire listens, patient, unblinking. Then when you're finished, it flickers in such a way that you swear it's nodding. You smile. Thank you, you say again, because you've learned. Some stories don't need applause, just acknowledgement. Later that night, just before sleep finds you, you feel something brush against your side. You look. A wooden spoon. Short. Familiar. Resting on your pack like it wandered in on its own. You pick it up. It's warm and carved into the handle, almost too faint to see. You're telling it well. You wake to a sky so still, it feels like parchment. No wind, no birds, no shuffling leaves, just the weightless hush of a morning holding its breath. You sit up slowly, careful not to break whatever spell the world seems to be under. The wooden spoon is still beside you, where you left it after last night's fire. You run your fingers along its worn handle. You're telling it well. A message, a promise, a challenge maybe. You tuck it into your pack, alongside the red thread, the knotted string, and the napkin with its stitched reminder to listen. Your pack doesn't feel heavier, just fuller. You begin walking again, not toward anywhere specific. By now you've learned that specific destinations are for people who've never met a judgmental chicken or had tea poured by someone who appears only when you're most exhausted. The path leads you through a forest, thick with bamboo. The stalks rise like green pillars, and the air smells of earth and old rain. As you walk, something curious begins to happen. The bamboo starts to lean. Not just from wind, there is no wind. It leans toward you, as if the forest is trying to hear better. You pause, turn slowly. Everywhere you look, the stalks bow slightly in your direction. You're not scared, but you are seen, and that's stranger. You walk on, and the path widens. Soon you come to a clearing where someone has tied hundreds of red ribbons between the trees. Each one has a word written on it in delicate brush strokes. Kindness, hunger, thunder, forgiveness, soup. You run your fingers along them as you pass. Some feel smooth and recent. Others are sun-faded and stiff with age. At the far end, one ribbon hangs lower than the others. It reads, Gui Chu, the place to return to. You smile, not because you found it, but because now you know it's never a place. It's a pattern, a moment, a way the light hits a bowl, a way someone looks at you without needing to ask questions. The place to return to isn't a spot on a map. It's the version of yourself that sits down, breathes out, and says, yes, this is enough. You tie your napkin ribbon beside it. Just a piece of yourself, so someone else might recognize the way. You keep moving. The forest opens into terraces of rice fields. They shimmer in the sun, reflecting sky and shape as if the earth decided to mirror the heavens, just for fun. A woman stands knee-deep in the water, planting new shoots with a rhythm that sounds like prayer. You pass her. She doesn't stop working, but she says, "You've walked far." You nod. She glances up. Her eyes are smiling. "I thought you smelled like ginger." You laugh. It startles even you. "I get that a lot," you say. She nods once, then goes back to planting. You watch her work for a while, then move on the water, reflecting your steps like a second version of yourself. Quieter, slower, maybe wiser. By the time the sun begins to lower, you reach a hilltop overlooking a lake so still it holds the entire sky without distortion. You sit at the edge. The wooden spoon rests beside you. You take out the stone Granny Tam didn't give you, but that somehow came with you anyway. You place it on the ground, then the clay fire pit, then the knotted string, then the red thread. You sit with them, you say nothing, and the wind returns not to speak, but to listen. A soft breeze, a shifting leaf, a long, patient exhale, then footsteps. You don't turn around. You don't need to. You know the rhythm. It's the boy who became the keeper. He sits beside you, says nothing, then takes out a folded piece of cloth. A sleeve? Familiar. He hands it to you. You unfold it. It's yours. From the night you first walked into the tavern with soup on your chin and questions in your eyes. Someone mended it with red thread. You look at him. He nods. "It's your story now," he says. You swallow. Not from sadness, from arrival. Again and again and again. Because stories don't end, they ripple. You hand him the spoon. He takes it, then reaches into his pocket and hands you something else. A matchstick. Old, used, still warm. You both sit in silence until the sky turns violet and the lake mirrors every shade of your memory. The matchstick is still in your hand when the stars begin to emerge, one by one, like old friends, arriving late to dinner but never needing to explain. The boy is gone. He left as quietly as he arrived, leaving behind only the faint imprint of someone who understood exactly how long to stay and when to vanish. You remain by the lake, not because you're waiting, but because you're finally not in a rush. The fire pit, the thread, the stone, the knotted string, they sit arranged in a circle around you like offerings to a god of quiet endings. You strike the match. It flares quickly, a brief golden gasp against the dark. You touch it to a small pile of dry pine needles, and the flame catches. It builds slowly, deliberately. No crackling, just warmth blooming in slow motion. You feed the fire like you would feed a story carefully, with just enough space to breathe. From your pack, you pull the last of your tea leaves. You boil water in a tin pot, pour it into the old ceramic cup you found weeks ago and never stopped carrying. The tea is earthy with hints of citrus and something that tastes suspiciously like regret. You sip anyway. You begin talking. Not to anyone in particular, just to the fire, to the memory, to the part of you that still remembers what it felt like to be handed a bowl of soup without needing to deserve it. You tell the fire about the wind chimes, the painter, the forest that bowed to you, the scallion on the fire pit, the chicken with the judgment of an emperor and the patience of a priest. And you laugh, aloud. It startles the quiet for a moment, but then the silence returns richer now. It wraps around your fire and settles beside you like a sleeping dog. Then from somewhere in the trees, footsteps, not soft ones. These are clumsy, deliberate, like someone who's been walking a very long time and isn't trying to hide it. A man steps into view. You don't know him, but you recognize him. He's wearing the apron Granny Tam used to wear. His sleeves are rolled, his face smudged with ash, and in his hands 2 bowls. He sits without asking. He hands you one. Steam curls from the surface like a story about to begin. You look at him. He nods. So do you. You eat in silence. The soup is strange, new, not what you expected. There's a bitterness at first, like overboiled greens, but then comes the warmth, the spice, the slow unfurling of flavor that makes your chest loosen. You finish it without thinking. Every drop. When you set the bowl down, the man is already gone. Of course he is. You stay a little longer. Not because you expect anything else, but because now you understand the tavern isn't something you return to. It's something you keep warm. In your words. In your actions. In the space you leave at your table for someone who might be cold or tired, or simply in need of a place to put down their story for a while. The flame in your fire pit dances lower, the tea grows cool, and then as the first pale blush of dawn begins to stain the sky, you whisper and thank you. Not to the man, not to Granny Tam, not even to the tavern, but to yourself, because you stayed, because you listened, because you didn't leave the warmth behind. You wake up for the last time with ash on your fingertips and something like clarity stitched quietly into your chest. There's no ceremony to it, no glowing portal, no final test. Just the gentle understanding that something is now complete. Or if not complete, then fully yours. You pack slowly the spoon, the stone, the fire pit, the napkin, the string, the ribbon, the thread. You don't know which ones are real and which ones were just metaphors you decided to carry. It doesn't matter, they're real enough now. The trail back down the hill is easy. Familiar in a way you can't explain. Your feet move without asking for permission. Your thoughts are soft, like wool soaked in honey. For once your mind is quiet, not empty, just content. In the village below, someone's burning incense. Someone else is chopping green onions. The morning smells like purpose. As you pass the stone bridge, a child waves. You wave back. You reach the market square just as the stalls are opening. One seller is arranging baskets of garlic. Another is setting out a sign that reads, "Today's special soup," without explanation. You stop walking. Stare at the sign. Then, without a word, you step forward. Inside the stall is a woman you've never seen before, but whose hands remind you of every bowl you've ever been handed when you didn't know what to ask for. She gestures to the single stool. You sit. She pours tea. You drink. She serves soup. You eat. And somewhere between the second and third sip, you realize something you hadn't let yourself understand until now. You were never meant to find the tavern again, because the tavern is not a place. It is an inheritance. And you've already passed it on, in every word you shared, in every story you told, in every silence you honored. You finish the soup, stand, bow without knowing why, and step back into the market full. Not just your belly, but your purpose. Because now you know what you are. You are the one who carries the warmth, the one who sets the bowl, the one who tells the story just long enough for someone else to sleep again. You walk on, and the story walks with you. So, here we are, at the end. Or maybe the edge of something new. Maybe you're lying in bed right now, eyes barely open, heart a little softer than before. Maybe you didn't expect to travel so far from the comfort of your own room. Maybe you didn't expect a soup-soaked tavern hidden in a forgotten corner of a dynasty to remind you what it means to feel known. But if you remember anything, let it be this: you are not alone. Even on the longest roads, even in the coldest nights, even when the fire burns low and the cat has left and the bowl is empty, there is a place inside you that still carries warmth, and someone somewhere is waiting to sit across from you, sip slowly, and say nothing at all. So when the world feels too loud or too much or too far away, remember the tavern. And if you can't find it again, be it. Light the fire, set the bowl, tell the story. And when you're done, smile into the silence. Because someone will hear it, and someone will sleep better for it. Good night, traveler. Sleep well. You've come home.